Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are live. Eventually, we're having a few technical issues at the moment with Cecile, but we'll just carry on. So welcome to the Together show. 8th of April. Can you believe we're already in the middle of April? Well, starting in the middle
don't. We're in the new tax year already.
We are now in the Easter holidays.
Oh my Lord.
Yes, everything's come round super quick. Nice bit of sun that we've got. Nikkei, how are you doing?
It's all good. You know me, I love a bit of sunshine, even a plastic sun, as I call it at this time of the year. I still love it. I love it. So yeah. So
had a bit of warmth. Yes, already been out with the dog today, so it's nice out there. I didn't need to have my jacket on, but then as you always turn around and say, yes, it doesn't mean a thing if I haven't got my jacket on.
But let me tell you guys, Sharon, especially, do not gauge the temperature by Miss Shelley because you will freeze.
Look, you see, I knew to walk with my jacket. Like you say, the English plastic sun.
Yeah.
It's just nice. I'd say it's not. We've had a couple of walks like yesterday that were quite. It was quite nice. It wasn't hot. It was just nice and warm. I would say that.
Yeah.
As you can see, we have got our guest already on. We've got Sharon. I shall put your. I've just remembered to do it because we've got your banner on there because we have. I think a Simply Deez outing.
Yes, I'm expecting full crew.
I think
you know it's going to be good because I don't normally go out on a school day, but there was no way I was not coming to this one. I'm like, nope, school is going to wait. School has got to wait.
Before we talk about the event itself, do you want to just try to explain what it is that you do? Because there's quite a lot of artistic sides to you.
Yeah. So I think foremost, I didn't actually start off that artistic in my career. I actually went into business first. So I did business management, but I always had a passion for dance and theatre. So later on in life, in my 30s, I opened a dance school and that ran for 15 years. And it was more than just a dance school because I found out that I was mentoring young people that were coming through my doors. And I think it was the mentoring side of the dance that I really enjoyed once you start unlocking people's personal power and showing them there's no glass ceiling. So that started a long way back. And then speaking to the young people and seeing some of the gaps in supporting the next generation to grow as individuals, it really got me thinking. So as I started to progress in my own development and career, and then seeing how in lockdown and the George Floyd murder, how we needed so much more to educate on racism, unconscious bias. This is where the real me was birthed, being a bit of an activist and looking at the world as it is, warts and all, but seeing the beauty of how we can all come together.
Yeah.
So that's how my life as a creative began, because I tried to think of different ways to educate, and outside of the traditional modes of schools and teaching, it's using the arts, dance, theatre, arts and music to educate and stimulate people.
Wow. So when you first opened the dance school, is that because you had like children that you was kind of saw a need for it?
Yes, I think because
was it something that you could kind of see where you've now ended up, that it was a way in to actually start to do these kind of activism kind of things?
I think what I saw is growing up for me, I had other outlets outside of school that allowed me to connect to other kids that weren't going to my school. So we had youth clubs and little community centres, but slowly as I got older, I'm seeing those resources being cut and not being there. So when I started to have children myself, I thought, what are the groups that they're going to be going to? And I did dance as a passion outside of school, and it helped me to grow and develop. So I thought, you know what, my love of dance, if I can open up an outside resource for kids to access and come and express themselves through dance with like-minded other children, then that might be a good way to help the community. And that's how it came about. And I actually went back to my school and said, look, I'd like to trial these classes here. So I put back directly in my community that I grew up in Bedford.
Yeah.
And so that ran for 15 years with success of students going from not having a single dance class to now being dance professionals and touring all over the world with Kylie Minogue, One Direction,
answered
Dua
my
Lipa.
question.
Yes.
Wow.
So
how do you feel when you see them? Like, do you just like, have you like, okay, I'm sure maybe they will tell you they're going to be on this show or that show, but like, you know how sometimes you can randomly put on YouTube or the television and then they pop up. You know, what's your first thought when you see that?
It's just a huge sense of pride to see, oh my gosh, they're fulfilling their dreams. They are living it to the max. So that's the first. And then the second one, I try and say, yeah, let me take some of that credit. But yeah, I do remember turning on the TV, and I think it was one of the big award shows, and they had Hugh Jackman doing The Greatest Showman, opening up this award ceremony. And as the routine was going on and they were singing, I was just started counting, and I got up to 12 of my students that have been through my doors were there and on TV together performing. And that, honestly, I was buzzing for about 2 weeks.
Oh my God. And those are people that have passed through. So
yes, and I'm still connected to half of them, which is lovely.
Oh, that is so
that is
amazing. Well done.
So, and I think what we have to remember is when we help others or mentor, try and stay connected. Don't just cut off the phone.
Yes.
So for some of them, I get a message 3 years on saying, I still remember this and I just wanted to thank you. And those are the nuggets and the gems that I'm like, yeah, it's worth doing.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
So they inspire me to keep pushing and keep evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, there's more generations coming behind them, and while I've still got breath in my mouth, let me help.
Exactly. Oh, that's amazing. So have you found that obviously since with those type of successes and obviously you're very what's the word? It's like you the way you've described your story, you have evolved. But I want to ask you as well with the feedbacks that you get, have you made any new programs, you know, like based purely off the success of
yes, I have.
that you got?
I think because of the way that I used to teach dance and engage, a lot of it was my personal experiences that I'm always sharing. So I realized that having lived an experience when talking to young people is really important to put that into context so it makes sense to them when you're educating. So that's allowed me to create programs to go into schools. So one of them is a cultural heritage empowerment that talks about the world as it is, talks about the history that we neglect to teach in Europe, that paints a completely different picture of the world once you understand that. So it's allowed me to actually really look and create new ways to try and educate using different methods. So using social media, videos, using the arts to really get and emphasize across the importance of it's important to know the full history to be able to move forward in the right way and learn from mistakes from the past.
Yeah.
So that's really helped me to embody and look at it, that when I'm talking about cultural history, it's all of our history, not just Black history. It's all intertwined as one history for the world. And that's where we need to look at it, as world history, and not just looking at, well, that's just British history or American history. No, it affects all of us. And if you look at the current political climate that's going on today in America, the decisions that are being made there are affecting us all globally. So we need to stop looking at smaller parameters of where we live and start to look at the bigger picture, which is the global picture, where we're all part of one race, the human race, not separated by man into colour. It's one race, the human race. And when we start thinking more collectively, globally, we're making the decisions for the world, not individuals.
It's one of those things where I've always said it, but it just keeps following me everywhere. There's such a big difference between the two words of inclusive and exclusive.
Right.
But it's I mean, I was helping out at the Luton Irish Forum at St Patrick's Day, for instance, Luton Town Centre. I'm not Irish. I have got Irish in my family, but I've become friendly with the group there. So I'm helping out, and it just happens to be because of the events management team that they used, they managed to get hold of the Bangor boys, which is the drummers. So you've got two cultures together celebrating. So they actually had the Irish dancing, the Irish bagpipes, and Indian drumming going on at the same time. And it just shows you that's what Luton should be promoting.
Right, a fusion of cultures.
We all should be in each other's festivals, understanding what all these different days are and the reasons for it, and celebrating each other. Not having someone that then says, right, okay, you can have that day. That is your celebration, and that is your celebration. But we're really good because as a council or whatever, we allow you to have those days. And it's like, no, we need to be fully in together. That this is our melting pot. This is where we're living.
Absolutely.
Just that little bit of understanding of each other's cultures and why different things happen at different times, that you would then understand more, and you would have a better cohesion in the team.
Exactly. And this is the whole reason why after I set up the dance company, before I did Rise at the Empress, I was doing cultural events that showcase different cultures. So as you said, I've done an Italian festival, Asian festival, Jamaican independence, to showcase the different cultures and invite other cultures to embrace that, to understand why there are different cultural practices that are sometimes really beneficial, and some cultural practices that we actually need to question and say, is that right? So until we explore those cultures together and really understand the reasons why those traditions for those cultures are upheld, and why we should actually question some of those cultural aspects that maybe are outdated. Nobody's perfect. We all evolve, and it should be a case of we're forever evolving and reviewing what's going on. But if we don't embrace each other's cultures, we will regress, because we're not moving forward to understand. And I think it's the differences that makes us so beautiful and wonderful together.
And it's
not
with that.
it's not just looking at the differences that separate us. No, the differences actually could combine us. So and it's just giving people more of the opportunity to have their authentic say on what they believe in, their cultural practices. And that's the same for the Black voice. We need to be authentic in our experiences of how we are seen within the world. And I think it's more than the right time now to correct that, because of what is going on currently in the world, that we're rolling back some of the rights that people have had. So from abortion rights, that's been rolled back in America. And this year they've rolled back the segregation rights. So you can be segregated in America now. Businesses can segregate and only have one race. If they wanted to, they could bring back the water fountains for just black and white. That's fact. And that's scary that we're in the 21st century, that's been allowed to happen. And I do believe it's because we haven't corrected the misinformation of the past that has stemmed back from slavery, that needed to separate the black community from the rest of the world, where the black community were reclassified into being chattel, not people. So chattel is being an object or an animal. And that was put into law to make it okay to keep the black community enslaved and seen as other. But where we are now, we were known as the global minority. But we are actually the global majority, right? But that terminology has only changed recently, and they've kept quiet. But we should be shouting that the 83% is the global majority is non-white. But when you look at how the world is run by a white male minority, that's not right. And we, the people, need to understand.
It kind of explains a lot. It kind of explains a lot as well. When you listen to the way, and I say this very lightly, okay, well, because we don't have a lot of time, but and some enlightened white people describe things of why they are the way, their culture. So what if you want their culture, which is not the type of culture you have been talking about, by the way. It's the culture of making sure they are the ones who are running the world. So it is the wars, the pillaging, the etc., etc. That is why, because how else would it? Because if you flipped that strength round to the 83%, what conversation would we be having?
Right.
And I never thought of it 100% like that, because I don't really think that is human nature.
Yeah, and that's what I say. We've got to start thinking bigger and stop thinking about our own little area. We're part of one world where we're all part of it. And when you start looking at it like that, the unfairness and the imbalance in the world it's shocking.
It is.
It's shocking. And it's based on people's greed and power.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. And we just haven't learned the lessons. That was the lessons of slavery, because Europe was becoming bankrupt 400 years ago. And they decided to go and explore the Africans, to go and get to the African continent, to go and get money and to go and get the riches there. And that's how it started. I mean, how can you then have countries in Europe have a summit without inviting any African nations to decide how to divide up that country between Europe? And can you imagine in modern day having a world summit and not inviting the people that you're going to take everything from it? And this is why, when you look at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, it's the same thing for money,
it's the same
power,
thing,
right, and
exactly.
to demonize a whole nation. And so, and then you've got world leaders that we'd least expected to back a regime where it is really taking it back and taking land and money that is not theirs.
Yeah.
So we haven't learned. And that's why the rise of the Empress allows that window of a different conversation to show how all of those things in the past are still affecting people today. So the rise of the Empress tells a story between two Black professional women that have worked in management for 30 years. They've known each other, but they've never had a conversation about the racism that they have faced as strong Black females. Now, you know, we're all different, but yet we get tarred with the same brush of who we are as Black individuals. So for women, they will say there's just angry Black women. But we wanted to show that we are so complex that the two characters are very different. One character is called Meredith. Now, she was brought up with her mother, who gave her the strong sense of who she was as a Black individual, knowing her Black history and her roots. Whereas the other character, Habanella, which is my character, her mum just told her, look, once you fit in, don't rock the boat. So anything that comes your way, whether it's racist or anything like that, don't say anything. Protect your place and standing. And it's that conversation that Meredith's trying to get Havanella to stand up for herself, see what it's about, because nothing will change. And it's the enlightenment of that conversation, why they haven't had the conversation, and then the different forms of racism that you can face. So the flat out just racist, the unconscious bias, the Black on Black racism, the sex, there's so many complex, but again, we have not got definitions of the different forms of racism in the UK to give to workplaces or nationally. So therefore, loads of people get away with being racist, saying, well, I wasn't being racist. That wasn't racist. So it's hard to quantify. So again, it's one of the things that the co-writer of this play, Nairobi Thompson, she is actually doing her doctorate, taking out this year, to write the different definitions of racism so that that can be explored nationally and given to the government, so that that goes into every EDI policy. So there's no way to escape those microaggressions and that I was only saying it as a joke.
Didn't realise
that should be in the policies.
So it's interesting that you should say that, Sharon. Can I just ask you a question? Because that one, I was only saying it as a joke. Do you think, but obviously you can have the policies that will describe all the different types of racism, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea to a degree. But so, right, the question I'm trying to ask you is that where does the onus lie? So, for example, if I was the one on the receiving end of that type of conversation, for me, I believe the power, the decision lies with me to decide whether what that person said is racist or not.
Absolutely.
Because if you know, so for example, I'm going to pick up my friend Shelley here because she's my friend, right? So I know confidently that she and I could be out together. She could say something to me and I'll be like, yeah, whatever. But I know that another person who looks like Shelley says that to me and I'm going to be 100% offended. And I've had that experience before, but I still believe that is up to me and that offense to me is real. But obviously, and I wouldn't expect that person to feel that they have the right to say, well, I heard Shelley say it to you, why didn't you get annoyed? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, well, I do. But you have you've already said you have a relationship with Shelley, you know, right?
Yeah.
So you know her. But somebody else that doesn't know you and you don't know them, and they say it and you say nothing, they will think that's okay. So we've got to get to a point where we say, actually, that's not right. You shouldn't really say that and be able to be defended. But where, like I say, in schools, where that's not in the policy, therefore there's no way for the school to say, well, you know what,
I can't bring you up on that fact because it's not in our policy.
Yes, so this is why I'm saying if you put it in there, at least there is a go-to for that individual to say, no, it's here in your policy. So what are you going to do about it? Now, some of the best schools that I've been working with, that's in their policy, and the other schools that I'm working with, we try and make sure that that gets put into the policy. So it's about making them fit for purpose to protect them in the long run.
That's really good. Do you encourage them to make their policies live as well, though?
What we do is when I go to the schools to teach this course, they have to give me their EDI policy so that we use it as a working tool for those students, so they understand how to use it, how to challenge it. And then at the last session, any amendments, we bring in the head teacher and they put it back to the teacher to say, we are not happy with this, can it be amended?
Yeah.
And therefore, these are life skills that we're giving them to then take onto their workplaces, because many adults do not know how to challenge racism or how to use their EDI policies effectively.
Yeah.
So
we have got to that kind of stage where you cannot have a decent conversation. Yeah, that's the reason that I'm feeling that way, because quite often you will actually then get, it will turn into like the argument. I've been in so many different call centers, and I've worked in I think the worst one that I had was the cash and carry, that they didn't, some people would say things and they wouldn't actually realize that it would be me as an ally that would then say, actually, you can't say that, because the reason why they're upset is because of where it comes from.
So, Shelley, you're already there. You're a true ally because you are aware and you will speak out. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's not just Black kids. That's what I'm saying. This is for everybody.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that haven't got the voice or the platform, but somebody else that doesn't look like them has, and they should be speaking out. And that's where I'm trying to get to everybody to say, this is not just for the Black community. We've all let this slide. Yeah. So it takes all of us to pull up everybody.
Yeah.
In the cash and carry, I mean, I was 18, 19, something like that. And I did have someone, because they'd picked up on the attitude of quite a lot of the other people. This is a customer that was there at the time.
Yeah.
A lot of other people. So whether that be other customers, whether that be people that worked in the cash and carry, I ended up with the customer in front of me, agitated about the situation, and said the words, "Is it because I'm Black?" And first thing I wanted to come out with was, and I actually said it, I said, "No, it's because you're an idiot." But let me go back to what it is that you're trying to get me to do. It's got nothing to do with who you are. And to then try to explain to some people recently, because I said it at the time way back then, it's not that I don't see your colour. I see your colour, but I don't react to it. I'm not reacting to the fact of who you are as a person that's standing in front of me. I'm reacting to what the situation was. And the situation was, no, I can't do it. And no, you can't throw your weight around. And to throw that at me, I threw a line back at you.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not I can, it's for some people now, I've got to explain to them, don't say that you don't see the colour, because that's
that's ignorant. And so Shelley, the fact that you said, if you're an idiot, you're an idiot. I love that. But people do use the race card incorrectly sometimes, and that's what I'm teaching kids at school. Don't throw it around. Use facts. If you're going to say something, you need to back it up with facts and feelings. There are two separate things. You can't just go in there with feelings and emotion, because you can't quantify it. But if you put in facts and explain why, and then your feelings on top of that, that's how we get it to people. But you can't just say, well, that's racist, or is it because no. You need to bring facts to the table. Yeah. So when I'm saying it, we're teaching these young people to be articulate about their experiences.
And sometimes I was talking about this with my friend this morning. I think there's some things that could be racist, but there could be two things at the same time. It could be like in the workplace. That's the easiest example. It could be favoritism, and it could also be racist. But if I was the one in that situation, I would go with the favoritism because it's easier. It's much more straightforward. It's much easier to say, well, actually, because you favorite A, B, and C, and the other E, F, and G were excluded. The fact that E, F, and G happen to be people of color is it's on top, because really and truly there are certain situations where there should be no favorites.
Absolutely.
And so you don't want to then compound the matter by just adding race into it where it's not necessary.
No, and that's why I said you've got to think, and before you throw those accusations, you've got to come at this with much more solid facts, that it can't be just acted away.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to get real definitions that can be recognized nationally, so that we've got something to fall back on. Because racism comes under one bubble, but it is so multifaceted and can be divided, but we haven't done the different definitions, and that will help so many people going forward.
Yeah, I think so.
And these kind of conversations, we're going back to sort of like your the show, Rise of the Empress. This being completely different type of show, that you're actually opening up those kind of conversations during
the performance, right? So what I've done is I've changed it. So it was a full play, and we performed it with Nairobi, me and as two women. But Nairobi, as I said, has taken a year off to do her doctorate. So I didn't want to let the opportunity waste for the conversation. So I've developed this as a one-woman show into the editor's version, so I can give you the key extracts from the original play, but also we were able to then delve deeper because I'm the creator of it. So you can ask questions and have that conversation. And when we've performed this, what we found was a lot of women coming up afterwards. This is the first time our experience, I've heard it live. Thank you. Yeah. You've represented us now as professionals, because you're right, we are different and we are on different journeys. So it gave that, oh my God, I haven't been crazy for all those years of trying to conform or trying to highlight some of these issues. So it really gave people that platform to be bolder. And every performance that we've done Q&As, we've done questionnaires during the play through links that people can say how they're feeling and what they would do differently. And the audience that we've had have been mixed ages, mixed nationalities. And there was one performance in Bedford, sold out, and we got to the end of the performance, and the facilitator, Power and Discussion, they're incredible, came on to get the audience ready for conversation. And we had already had questions being sent in via the link. This one lovely gentleman, let's say white gentleman, stood up in his late 60s, and he said, "Is this really what it's like to be Black and British?" The audience turned around to him and said, "Yes, it is." And he went, "Well, I'm ashamed, and we do need to do more about this," and sat down. So it just goes to show the power of how we're being totally honest in this conversation. And it is jaw-dropping, some of it. I've given some of my personal experiences as a manager of the racism I've received. But we show examples in there that you can't question when you see the social experiments of how young people think. And I'm talking 8-year-olds, their opinion between Black and white. So it really lends for discussions. And even now, I've created the play with Nairobi. Every time I do the play, I can't watch the videos that I've put in there, because it still is so raw on the emotion of unconscious bias, and how we race over another. And I beg anybody that watches that not to be torn or not to feel away. Everybody has come out watching that, and a lot have said they're going to go back from this show and start showing that to people, for them to see the unconscious bias they don't even realize they have. And I had one gentleman that, again, another white gentleman, came with his mum, and they've got Black family members. So they came in thinking, yeah, this is going to be great. We'll get to see this. At the end of the play, he had red eyes. His mum had red eyes. They'd both been crying in the play. He goes, "You've just highlighted something. I always thought I was an ally. I didn't even understand the unconscious bias that I have. But you've taken me on a journey. I will be better for this, but everybody needs to experience what you've showcased tonight, because we all have it and we all need to understand that." And he went, "Black and white." And I said, "I know, and that's what I'm trying to highlight." So yeah, you come away thinking, I'm still learning. I'm still unpacking my own unconscious bias in so many areas. But I'm a better person for challenging myself and looking realistically of how we've all been conditioned from generations of unconscious bias.
Yeah. And do you think, Sharon, because as you were speaking there, I was just thinking, because it's contained, isn't it? It's a show, people are live, they're sat next to each other, they can feel that energy in the room. But I'm very curious as well about people who sit behind a computer and stuff that goes on, or people who are not open to the idea of unconscious bias, because that's the bit that interests me, because obviously, well, it's not obvious because obviously you don't know me, but I follow a lot of the I doom scroll, right? I am that person. I doom scroll much more for somebody of my age than normal. And I'm absolutely fascinated by how people respond to things and people that they don't even know, just because the person is different from them. The Harry and Meghan situation is a perfect example. The example that I always cite before that, being a Liverpool supporter, is what happened to the Hillsborough people when they died, and the nastiness that they spread about them, and people believed it.
I know,
and it stays there.
And it stays there, and that's my point. This is why what we're doing now is even more prevalent today, because of what's going on in the climate across the world. So if you can vilify us back then, it's exactly what's happening today. They could be the next ones to be vilified. And that's what I'm trying to get to people. No one is safe.
No one. It's
no
bad.
one. No
it's very
one.
bad. It is, because I'm just thinking, because obviously you're talking about the unconscious bias, and I'm thinking to myself, you've got nice, good, open people that want to deal with that. And then you've got people who deliberately, like you said earlier in the show, because of greed, because of power, want to, they're putting forces out there.
Right. And look where it's got us, And that's what I'm trying to say. Look at the environment situation. So environmentally, if we think about how the world has come about, so people going to Australia, getting rid of, killing and massacre the Aborigines, who were the gatekeepers environmentally for that area. We've lost those skill sets of how to manage that environment. And we're in an environmental catastrophe in certain aspects. So it's just farcical that the people that have the expertise and the knowledge, because people need to control them through money or what have you, they get rid of it, and then we lose those expertise, and then you get people not qualified to manage those things. Like I say, look at the political climate where you've got people in charge of big things that have no knowledge of it.
No, they just know how to siphon the money the way they want it.
Right.
I didn't say that. But
when we start to challenge what we think is success, we might start getting somewhere. People think, and they're pushing you towards the more money that you have, that makes you successful. They don't care how you got that money, how you made it, as long as you've got a lot. So for me, I'm like, no. Think about this. I would rather have £1 in my pocket, knowing how I made it and giving it to somebody, than have millions and I'm not giving nobody nothing.
That is a big conversation, Sharon.
I
It's
know,
massive. It
but
is
we
a
are
big
losing.
conversation.
Yeah, but I think
And it's a conversation by itself.
I know Cornel West said this 30 years ago when he wrote his book, quite famously, Race Matters. We are in a moral decline. We are in a moral decline. He's right. When liars are getting promoted over truth tellers and we're vilifying liars and just trying to silence them,
I haven't fact checked this. Yeah, I haven't fact checked this. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I was just going to say that I saw more than one person has said it, but I don't know if it's true. But apparently there was a motion that went through the UN where they wanted to make food part of human rights, and most people were in favour of it, except for the two nastiest nations of the moment.
Right, and this is what I'm saying. We are going backwards. It's just a joke. And then we also look at success. What is success? We talked about financial, but people look at their achievements. And sometimes we've got to look and strip it back to a little bit more simply. That achievement for me was if I made somebody smile or I helped somebody today.
Yeah.
That's a bigger achievement than getting some false award. So, I think we need to strip things back to basics a lot more and start to look at our own moral compass and code.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea for people to work back to strip it to basics than for it to be forced. Because
and this is also something that's in my cultural empowerment. Because if we are going to bring people up in the real world, they need to see it how it is, warts and all, that it's not fair. But what we can do is rewrite our own moral compass, not what society's telling us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's strip it back. And there's some just fundamentals, love, kindness, and honesty. That's all I want. And I think no religion can argue with that. And if you're not religious, it's a good place to start. And we have to remember that man has interpreted religion sometimes for its own purpose, greed and gain.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you have to understand and have your own moral compass, not just listen to what others are saying.
It's very interesting.
You say about religion, and it is always. I was brought up through a Methodist church. I have got some religion and I've got some beliefs more than an actual religion. But Red Dwarf, the TV program.
Oh yeah,
one of the episodes on there that he goes to church, and because his version of the Bible that got reprinted with not the hope, faith, hope, and charity, and the greatest of these is hope, he had a typo in the Bibles that they were given out, so it became hop. So every Sunday they had to hop. Now that just shows you just what if you was to follow a line in a book, and that is the way that everything has got to be. That is how silly it can be to someone else. It just shows you that it's if you don't hang on about why we're hopping, it's because it's won that line in a book.
Yeah, and
that's so interesting. Yeah,
it's scary. And then look at how religion was used in America to bind people to a political party.
Yeah,
it's full of nonsense, and I'm just like, you're following somebody, false prophet, that is a known liar, etc. That's why I say we have to be careful.
It's very interesting that you should say that, Sharon, because when I was at uni, I used to hang around with these two girls that were sisters, who were practicing Muslims, and actually they taught me a lot because I didn't realize. Obviously, we have extremities everywhere. Like you're just describing one, and they were describing some of their experiences that they had seen because of being Muslim ladies, etc. But they always used to say, and if I tell you at least once every week for most of the terms, they used to say, well, you Christians, there's going to be a false prophet and you're all going to follow them and this is what's going to happen. And I'm like, oh my God. And I remember telling my other friend, and I go, that's not a very nice thing to say. That means two out of three of us, this is what's going to happen. And it's literally because you literally just spat it out there in your conversation where you say, you know, we need to be careful, we need to be about the false prophets and Christianity. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God.
See, for me,
that was like nearly 30 years ago.
So this is going to be very controversial to some. I do believe that there is only one. And if you think about this, remember, one world.
Yeah.
How many different languages have got in our one world? So it's the same message that's just been interpreted to different languages.
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So and this is what I'm saying. I'm just like, when you look at the fundamentals of what it should be, like I said, kindness, love, honesty, no religion can argue with that.
Yeah.
No, 100%. You are 100% correct, and it's very interesting. I think the reason why I'm just a little bit animated, particularly this particular conversation that we've been having. What's going on there?
Slightly,
is so there's a book I've been reading because it's Lent, and it talks about certain things. The passage actually that was the word for today. Today was exactly what we've said, whereby, you know, it's one thing to be sincere about something, but, you know, it's got to be the truth.
Right.
And, you know, like where you were saying, because the truth to those people in the Red Dwarf was the fact that they had to hop every Sunday. But to them, they were doing it, they were genuine because that is what they believed. They didn't mean any harm.
Yeah.
But oh my God, it's crazy.
So this is why I'm saying we need to be creating plays, art that allows us to have a conversation. Because 100%. It's ignorance of not having these conversations, not having some difficult conversations that is holding us all back. And where we're going now, they want to roll it back where they can control people. So we got to get to the point of we the people needs to start standing up for ourselves and what we believe in.
Yep.
And one is equality for all.
One of those that they can find out, they can start by actually coming down on the 24th of April.
There you go. And hear what I'm talking about, because they'll be like, she ain't really, they're not going to be able to convince me that we need to think differently. I challenge you, come and watch it. Come and have a conversation with us. And if you still feel the same, be brave and pick up the mic on the night. Because I haven't got the answers to all of this, but if we start having conversations, we might get the answer, or we might start to get close. But until we start to realistically have a conversation, nothing will change.
Yeah.
And it needs that safe space to actually have those kind of conversations.
Right, and it is. And that's what I'm saying. So from this, so from this play, my mum and dad came to watch it. They knew that I was writing it with a friend, and they knew little bits of what it was about. But to be honest, that was the first time that they had heard any racist incidents that I'd faced at work. The first time that we had that discussion was a public one, me performing. And then the next day, my mum picked up the phone and we had our first conversation, and I was 50 at the time, about racism that my mum had faced at work.
You were 50 at the time? 50?
Yeah.
Did you say you were 50?
Yeah. So the first time we had a conversation.
We need to have a conversation. I need to be eating what you're eating.
Yeah, it's you know what it is? When you live the truth, it helps. It helps. So again, and that was an eye-opener for me, and our relationship since then is strength to strength. My mum's my bestie now. We talk about absolutely everything. And I was the mum. I was Havanella character that my mum told me, don't rock the boat. And now she's like, you up on your boat, yes? So it is important to unlock these conversations between everybody and within the Black community, because I'm still finding we're not being truthful about our experiences and the real pain that we go through. And it's because of that that people think, oh, it's not that bad.
That's one of the things that when we have our events and different bits and pieces that I do, and the different conversations that I kind of been listening to, that I hear, and I'm still surprised now that you get so many times it was like, oh, it's the first time I've spoken about this, or I haven't felt comfortable to be able to say. And it still shocks me sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm still,
and that's why I decided to pull up my big girl drawers and just start saying it, because it will make others do that. And what is beautiful, because of the work that I'm doing in schools, the cultural empowerment, I've now got students that are speaking out, that are writing their own poetry, writing how they feel, how things need to change. So the next generation will be fearless, and we've got to support them towards doing that and to help them protect themselves in the future. So hence knowing how to challenge EDI policies, knowing more of the facts of history that will help them to shape and rebrand the Black community, because that's what we've got to get brilliant at, is about doing our own PR and our marketing of who the Black community really are and what they did for the global world, which was the invention of mathematics, astrology, first language, all of that, because that people still think, oh, that was in Egypt, and Egypt's in Europe.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, so, and when I get people going, oh, I didn't know that, I'm like, please.
Yeah.
So we need to get to the point where we're just, it's time to rip off the Band-Aid. We've been trying to pull it slowly and slowly and slowly. It's just time to rip it off. You know when they rip off the Band-Aid and then you put your hand over the bit?
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. We need to rip it off and then hold firmly and just say, you'll be okay. You'll be all right in a minute.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not about coming for anybody. It's not about revenge. It's just about equality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what people need to understand.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and the play is a way that we can have this conversation in a bigger platform publicly. We've designed it that it can go into theatres, it can go into workplaces, it can go into schools and colleges, because the information that you get from it, or the understanding, is huge. And we delivered the editor's version I'm doing on the 24th at Luton Library Theatre.
Yep.
I did this at West Yorkshire Police. They've been to see this in Huddersfield, and 2 of them came up to me and said, we need to get this as training to our police force, because from how you framed it, I think this would change people's perceptions on stop and search. And I thought that was a huge statement.
Wow.
But
yes,
he got the impact of knowing the right history, reframing actually what the Black community have contributed to the world. He was blown away, because he was like, it's actually the reverse of what we've been told. And I'm like, there you go.
Yeah. So, yes.
And this is a story for everybody. So the students that I'm working with, I am putting a call to action to anybody that comes to see any of the work that I'm doing in the schools. The call to action that I will leave with everybody is, I am only one person. It takes all of us to talk about this. So doing your bit as an ally is to re-educate and let people know what has been achieved. So the main thing I keep talking to, and I've got young students, 17-year-old white boys, going back to their lower schools to teach about the 15 inventors, because they're like, if we only knew that, it would change the way you think and see what people can achieve.
Yeah.
So we need to remove that false glass ceiling that people keep trying to put us all under. Because you're female, you've only got this ceiling. Because you're Black, you've got this. Because there is none.
Yeah.
There is none if you work hard and get on with it. Yes, it might be harder for some, but life's not easy and life's not fair. And that's the realism that we need to let people know. But we need to see the hate to get to the love and to get to the answers.
Yes.
You can't just see, oh, but I'm not going to see it because he is lovely. That's not the real world.
Yeah,
You
we
need to
can
take the
just change.
blinkers off.
Yeah, you got to understand the reason why that you need the change and why it affects different people. Why it affects people differently. To actually then thinking, yeah.
And I keep saying to everybody, we're one world, one people. You might think right now, well, I've got nobody of colour in my family. Wait till the doorbell rings, because cousin Sue's bringing somebody. So eventually we're all going to have blended families, and we need to understand different cultural practices so we're not ignorant.
Yeah.
And nobody can say anymore, well, I wasn't taught that in school. People, we got Google, we got everything else, and we've got our own social media. So use it wisely, because there are kids doing things that we think, how do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get taught that in school. So there is no longer the excuse saying, I didn't know that. We've all can find out for ourselves, and it's time to stop blaming everybody else for our own ignorance, and it's time to start understanding.
Yeah.
So, Rise of the Empress on the 24th. Yes, Luton Library. Tickets on sale now. And I might even do a bit of a competition, because I do artwork, that one person in that audience will get a personal portrait that I will do of them.
Ooh!
So if that's not an incentive to get you there,
yes,
I don't know.
It is definitely open to everyone. Links are in the comments on here. They're all on our pages anyway, and the flyers and stuff to explain a little bit more are all on our pages. And that
you've got some. But I'm really encouraging families, particularly families dual heritage, particularly ones that you can't shift their opinion. This is the one to bring them to. This is the one. Yeah.
So I don't know whether Jake is watching or anything. He's my nephew, for a better word, my best mate's son. He is actually doing politics and stuff. So
I need Jake.
One of the things that I was wanting to see if he would come with me. So yeah.
Right, tell Jake if he comes with you, you'll get to see me, and then tell him she will, because he's into politics and that, she would definitely do a portrait. Get him there.
Ooh, okay.
There's an incentive. But I'm a political animal when it comes to things. That's my guilty pleasure. So I would love a conversation, because we do need to get our young people into politics, but understanding correctly the history first before they go in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry,
so
I'm sorry
bring him along,
but I really have to go.
It's been a pleasure, ladies.
Yeah, you too.
And I can't wait to see you and meet you in the flesh.
Yes.
On the 24th.
On the 24th.
Yeah, and come with your questions. Bring them. All the naysayers.
All right.
And particularly ones that say, I can't see colour. Come, I'll show you it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I shall see you on the 24th, and I'll see everyone else next week.
Lovely. Enjoy the sunshine, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. Rise of the Empress 24th. Whoop, whoop.